And talking about crossing over divisions, that's exactly what we're doing right now. We're heading into our third match, Orange taking on Seiko in this one. And Sottle, you touched about this a little bit earlier. The win for Pavel earlier spelled good things for Orange, and now we're going to see if that can actually come into effect that we're getting into this match right here. Orange taking on Seiko is our third match of the day, and so we're going to be looking at the deck list here shortly. It is a Rogue mirror match that we have.
It is indeed. Starting things off with Orange, who is playing that single Sea Giant variation, the one-ofs that we kind of hotly contested yesterday. He is playing a single copy of Sap, a single copy of Novice Engineer, and 0 Eviscerates alongside that one Sea Giant. But as is the case with most rogues right now, it is primary all the way for the Rogue Mirror because they have an anti-mage and an anti-warrior. That's the two decks that they potentially feel they gain the most edge by bringing in tech cards. So for a Rogue Mirror, it's just primary all the way.
That's right. In a Rogue Mirror match, all Rogue players will tell you they always have the edge in that one. They don't need anything else to do it. So let's take a look at Orange deck and see exactly how he's going to do it. Very largely the same way. There is only... I'm sorry, we're taking like Seiko's deck now, excuse me.
Yep.
I was like, wait a minute, we just looked at Orange's deck. Seiko does it a little bit differently. He has a copy of Eviscerate in there and trimmed it down to a lone copy of the Waggle Pick, which I quite like the trim of the Waggle Pick. I have just found this to be very much in the same vein as cards like Eviscerate and Sap, where if I draw 2 of them, it's very clunky. It's an important card, but 2 of them in my hand often leaves me feeling with a dead feeling hand.
I think that's very reasonable. We'll see if that comes into play, whether Waggle Pick ends up having a huge impact. But as we get started here, set the scene on tiebreakers for you one more time. There is a world where Orange beats Seiko here and Casey beats Hunter Ace, in which all 3 of those players, Orange, Seiko, and Hunter Ace, are then tied on match record at the top of the division. That then means, because earlier Pavel was the one to pick up the victory, that Orange puts himself in the driver's seat to finish in the top position if that eventuality occurs.
Casey versus Hunter Ace, as I mentioned here, is happening right after this match as well. So back-to-back, we're going to find out if this happens. It needs to start with Orange winning, if that's going to be the case. And I'm certain Seiko's pretty interested in making sure that Orange doesn't do that.
Yeah, I'm a little bit worried because Pavel in his interview said that Seiko was telling him that he had a way to overtake Hunter Ace on tiebreakers if Pavel wins. My calculations say that is not the case.
Correct.
So I am very interested into how this one pans out.
My guess would be an unaccounted for variable.
Yes. But on whose side?
Ah. Not yours. I've watched you do math. It's very meticulous.
Oh, God. Now there's pressure.
Well, it's not my fault you're tedious.
No, that is entirely on me.
I think it's one of your finer qualities. I'm thinking these backstabs are some of the finer qualities of Orange's hand, too. These are major for him right now.
So many options.
That's actually accurate from Valeera this time. You're thinking about something, and I'm wondering what.
It was tiebreakers. I'm going to be honest.
Okay, I'm thinking about backstab, trade, Witchy Lackey, dagger, attack. Leave Seiko with a lone 1/1. And you have a random 4 cost minion.
Seems to add up.
And stuff.
It's about the most tempo you can achieve on this turn.
Woo! Never wanted a 4/5 worse in my life.
I said we'd see if the Waggle Pick came into play. It certainly did. The one copy of Waggle Pick, all Seiko needed to be able to chew up this board state.
Yeah, and Orange kind of back to square one now. How do you get developed? Hey, that might be a way, but I'm looking at Hedgeclan Burglar as well. There's still a lot of good options here. Orange's hand is going to continue to crank out gas in the meantime, and so for Seiko, I think it's about how much advantage he can take of the fact that he has Waggle Pick right now. And if I've seen him play enough and talked about this enough in the interview process, which I still have 0 clarity on, I'm going to say with 100% certainty that if he does not draw a relevant card, he is playing Novice Engineer and swinging the Waggle Pick.
Ooh!
I'm saying it.
I don't know, Admirable.
If the next card's, like, say the next card's like Life Drinker or something.
So many options.
All right, I want you all in on this. Nate,
I'm all in on it.
Which cards can he draw that he will be shadow stepping his Novice Engineer?
Evil Cable Rat, maybe?
Okay. That's not very many.
Choose soon.
Ziliax? I'd Shadow Step Ziliax here. He might hang on to the Waggle Pick if he draws Ziliax. That's a possibility as well.
Yeah, I think that's something that we do need to consider, is that Seiko is under no obligation to swing the Waggle Pick on any turn because there's no weapon
Just
destruction
instantaneous!
coming the other way.
He always does it. I'm telling you, right? We tried to duplicate this yesterday, Sottle and I. We could not even come close to figure out how he had the amount of
You
gas.
tried for one game and then got distracted by a butterfly or something and went and did something else.
Oh, it was a butterfly.
Yeah, they're adorable.
Yeah. I also did go home and try to duplicate it. It did not
many
work.
options.
I just ended up running out of gas all the time.
Liar! Or phony.
He's going to regret that.
Kind of why I wanted you to just, you know, double down, go all in on it, is I really felt like that was a step miscreant kind of hand. Seiko just kind of let the fates decide.
I don't know. I think I like the Novice Engineer still more in this situation. I'd have a 1-4 in play instead of a 1-1. I already have another Miscreant in my hand. I guess the question would be, what card from my deck do I want to draw? And I don't know. So maybe this is better. I imagine Orange is hunting down pretty specifically some faceless lackeys.
Choose soon.
Not a particularly good outcome, even though it's a very high quality card.
I think a 5 is going to be more.
Yep.
4 to 5 is more stats than the 1 cost and 2 cost. Ooh!
All right.
That, on the other hand, is a fantastic outcome.
Yeah, it's lessened a little bit by, you know, Rogue's ability to just have so many kind of innocuous 1-1s on the board at any given time. But definitely in certain matchups, it is a huge role to get off and evolve.
And this is where the game begins to become ultimately unclear to me, is I have no idea which of these cards is better than the others.
From nothing, power.
How bad could backstabs really be?
Agreed. Seiko.
How
So
good
contract.
can unidentified contract be, though? And there's a lot of situations where it's very good.
Yeah, it looks like he got the Betrayal contract, the Turncoats contract, I believe it's called.
It destroys the minion, and then it also deals its damage and attack equal to the minions adjacent.
Yep.
Which contract do you like the most?
Usually that one.
Okay. I'm a big fan of the Patient Assassin one.
That is also good, yeah. I think that's probably my second favorite. I think normally, obviously, I'm never putting contract in my deck, so I'm discovering it from various places. And if it's an option I'm considering discovering, I'm usually in a situation where I feel like I'm either behind or going to be behind in the future. So I just like the ones that represent the most removal.
Orange has got a pretty good amount of removal right now. I feel like we have officially entered a value territory kind of game.
Yeah, it's looking that way. Both players are relatively stable health totals, although that can change for Seiko a lot quicker than it can change for Orange, especially with the makeup of the hands.
I mean, that's a true story. I mean, with Waggle Pick and Soulfire and an SI7 agent and a Snip Snap in hand, I do think Orange has some incentive for looking deep and seeing if there's an opportunity to push damage here. I think the problem is the volatility of the matchup, where if you decide to push damage and open options for your rogue opponent, things can become very dangerous quite quickly. So something like Walk the Plank, I think, could very easily change that decision marker. Where you go, you know what, if they have Sea Giant, I'm pretty good here. But Orange clearly interested in making sure that Heist Bear and Togwaggle is not an active play.
I think he had a very strong board development turn there, and I think taking it makes sense because if he can, the longer he can keep board, the more options he has. Any turn he has board, he's able to switch game plan, right? He can keep playing to board for board, or he can switch to damage with the minions that he's stuck because he's played for board. So I think as long as he continues to have very strong answers to be able to do that, it makes sense.
Seeing preparations seeming main effect now, which is activate a combo.
Yes.
Multi-shot.
Whoa. Well,
Yeah.
now there is a big neon sign pointing in one direction.
Vacancy. Life total from Seiko.
No. His life total is currently occupied. Your job is to make it vacant.
Oh, it will be quite soon. You're like, wait a minute. I'm pretty sure that's a 0 right now. Yeah, we're gonna lop off that 2 awfully quick here. So the turn for popping Waggle Pick is going to be turn 8. That's like the primary turn for Leroy Jenkins and stuff. Soulfire is one of the damage options for Orange right now, but if you look at Waggle Pick and just Leroy, that's 20.
Right. The problem is if you want to get the Soulfire into the equation, you need the extra mana to use it after the Leroy for it to be completely safe, which then kind of shifts your turn clock to turn 8 and turn 9 where you're dealing your damage.
Exactly.
So this might be a different turn where Waggle Pick is not involved, just trying to set up for any chip damage that he can get with Snip Snaps. That way he's more resilient against Ziliax, more resilient against Life Drinkers as well.
I think this is the best of both of those worlds as well, where... So what ends up happening here is if Seiko wants to take care of this, he's going to have to use some sort of removal, which is going to occupy time. If the removal happens to be Ziliax in this spot, what ends up happening is you get to pick off Ziliax and then wait for the situation in which you get to use this Leroy. I think this both at the same time delays Seiko's ability to have any sort of counter push or stability turn, and at the same time maximizes your push opportunity. If Ziliax isn't there, Seiko's dead.
So I take what you say, and I think you're right, but I'm going to present the devil's advocate argument anyway. If you were going to go for damage this turn, if you were going to equip the Waggle Pick, if you don't play a minion, your opponent is dead apart from Life Drinker, right? Like, you take Ziliax out as a way from just preventing you pushing through lethal.
Ziliax, no attack.
That's fair.
This guy's toast.
I think in this situation, you absolutely get that Ziliax out of the way, and now you have Vendetta, Leroy, attack, and the setup is there even through Life Drinker on the following turn. You force the Ziliax.
Yep.
And I think that he's afforded that liberty because he has the Soulfire and the Vendetta in this spot.
Agree with all of that.
I think for Orange, that was just a pretty brilliant spot to go, oh, you know what? Even if he has Ziliax here, my hand is really good against that because that takes 5 of Seiko's mana.
And still, by some distance, not the best lethal setup spot he has made in Hearthstone Grandmasters. Because that was last week.
Yes. Talking specifically again about unidentified contract. The option that adds the copy of the minion to your hand. I did not realize you could play on your own minions.
Yeah.
And so Orange used it as a bootleg Shadow Step on a Kobold Lackey.
Yep.
I feel like if it was on the opposing Lackey, that'd have been easy to spot.
See, I like this from Orange. Just get the Leroy damage through now. This plays around any kind of faceless Lackey into taunt kind of scenario. He had the option to use the Walk the Plank instead of the Vendetta. That way he has a 0 mana removal spell on the following turn. But you're still dealing with a lot of ifs and buts and maybes and variables and random outcomes. I think dunking the damage through now and just setting up for Soulfire afterwards makes the most sense.
Yeah, and a lot of it boils down to just Lackey shenanigans. If a Witchy Lackey brings up a big taunt, you've already got that checked because you've gotten through the Leroy damage.
Exactly. Well, with Witchy Lackey, I said Faceless Lackey, but yeah, Witchy Lackey more likely to bring up bigger, more imposing taunts that maybe even Vendetta can't dig through.
Thinking like something weird with Rotten Apple Bow or something like that.
Yep. Life Drinker. Orange is fine with this so far. He just does not want to see the card Shadow Step anytime soon.
I think he actually wins through Shadow Step as well. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. Yeah, he wins through Shadow Step.
He was,
as
yeah,
well.
and he has no combo activating worries, right? He just goes Lackey, then SI, then Soulfire.
Yeah.
It's guaranteed. Yep, no, he would still. All right, clean setup.
Yeah, this was just, you got the cards and you did the thing you were supposed to do. Kill him.
Yep.
Big game one for Orange. Taking the lead in that one. And the side decks, as you had mentioned, they do not contain anything specifically for the rogue matchup. I think that's twofold. Number one, that's very difficult to do and not dilute your own deck with it. And then number two, you need to have backup plans against Mage and Warrior. So for games 2 and number 3, we are going to be seeing them stick to those same 30 cards and battle it out again. The lone waggle pick versus the 2 waggle pick. And that tells me, because you know that's face up on paper, these are open deck list matches the players are playing. Orange knows he has a bit more aggressive potential behind that. And something that has really stuck with me in Orange in tournaments is that he has been so good in tournaments over the years in open decklist formats. In a situation like Ladder, he has, by his own admission, had some struggles because he's left doing so much more guesswork. He can't have the preparation that he would normally have.
Yeah, I think another hallmark of Orange's play as well is that he is very tempo-focused, very board-focused, very good at spotting damage, pushing damage, setting up lethals, as we've seen both last week and this. I remember a story of when he was trying to learn Big Spell Mage from a couple of metas ago, which essentially the only minions you play are a couple of Arcane Tyrants. And for, you know, for the first few hours of trying to learn that deck from some of his friends, his only win condition was just trying to find a way to tempo people out of the game with 2 Arcane Tyrants. That's like the only way he understood how to play. It's so hardwired to play for tempo in Orange that he just defaults to that position so often. And when he's playing the right deck that lines up with that, that's one of the times where he can look like a natural.
All right, indeed. I fully agree with that one, too. It's been wonderful to see throughout years. For Seiko in this one, he's going to have to find better ways to get tempo, because in that one, just wasn't able to snag it, and things snowballed out of control. So we got to go to a quick break. When we come back, though, we're heading into game number 2 of Orange versus Seiko. If Orange wins this one, as Sottle wants, the world will burn due to the tiebreaker standings. Stay tuned.
Hi, I'm Monsanto. I came up with the username Monsanto. I was in high school. It's from the company Monsanto, the big evil corporation. One of my teachers hated that company so much that at the end of the year he told us, well, if you didn't learn anything from my class, it's okay, as long as you remember that you should hate Monsanto. And that was like such a big thing to hear from your teacher, and I just immediately changed all my usernames to Monsanto. My best Hearthstone Esports memory was in 2016 in Summer Prelims. I was facing Dude 7597, and I was completely losing on board as Druid against the Zoo Warlock. I had played 5 spells during the game, then I jammed the Yogg-Saron. It cleared his board, built myself a board, and the next turn I had double Savage Roar for lethal. What makes me special as a player, I think, is I try everything. I try every possibility in decks. I try new things. And so when there's something that went under the radar, there's a big chance that I actually found it and I can bring that deck. Being in Grandmasters means a lot to me. Being able to just compete another full year of Hearthstone, that was a really big thing for me. I want to win the whole thing. That's my personal goal.
My name is David Dog Cairo. I play for Team Liquid currently, and hopefully forever. If I had to be a breed of dog, I'd probably be a golden retriever. If I had to change my username to any other animal, what would I change my username to? Probably something cool like Cobra. Cobras are cool. My personal goals for the year, I haven't really set them, but it's more It's more within streaming, not within competition. I do want to be competitive. That's actually why I accepted the Grandmaster spot. Otherwise, there would be really no incentive for me. I'd rather just stream. I just want to be better as a streamer and produce better content because to me that's really important. There's a reason why I started getting popular on Twitch, and that was because I was very good at what I did in terms of like bringing entertainment to Hearthstone. I was like be able to create really wonky decks and do well with them, as opposed to just, you know, make wonky decks and lose all the time, which is what most people do. There's a trick to it. The key to making a good ladder deck that's wonky is just beat the most popular classes. So a ton of Rogue on ladder, try to beat Rogue. Is there anyone that is my enemy in this division? Competitively, not really. No one's on my level, so.
It's Hearthstone Grandmasters for the European region. We are amidst our third match of the day. That's Admirable, and I'm joined by Soddle.
Hi.
And Orange is up a game versus Seiko right now, and no tricks, no funny shenanigans or whatever. I can't think.
You
of
just
any
learned
words
that
right
word
now.
from Pavel, didn't you?
I did.
Yeah. They're both on their primary.
Yes.
That's essentially what he's trying to say. We talked about it beforehand. Nothing really to be doing with teching for Rogue. It was a little bit easier when everyone was a raiding party deck, because then you had that flexibility. Which pirates do I want to play? Which pirates are good against Rogue? I can draw them consistently. Do I want Bloodsail Corsairs in my deck to be able to destroy their Waggle pick? Do I want to play different weapons to draw off my raiding party that can influence that situation as well? That really gave you some tech options as to coming up against Rogue when, 50% of the time you were facing Rogue and they were just playing double Waggle pick, double raiding party every single time. These days, Rogue is a lot more flexible, a lot more well-rounded. They do more different things depending on what particular list you queue into. And because that raiding party option is taken away, that was one of your key tech options as to which pirates you wanted to pack in. So now you just forget about it and you beat the mages and the warriors instead.
It looked like the Leroy that Seiko mulliganed away went directly into Orange's hand with the way the mulligans had panned out.
That'd be kind of an interesting mechanic for like a mulligan in a card game, right?
Like a tavern brawl.
Any card you throw away goes into your opponent's hand.
You build 30 cards, your opponent builds 30 cards, you shuffle them into one deck, and you share the deck.
Right. Kind of interesting.
Be a lot of bad decks.
Oh, yeah.
Coin Miscreant, one of the premiers in the matchup. And a Miscreant in hand is worth 1.5 in play.
Sure.
That's what Gallon told me one time.
Okay.
He got actually mad at me for not shadow stepping an evil Miscreant one time. Like,
was it in this situation specific, like Rogue Mirror?
I coined a Miscreant and I didn't shadow step because what are you doing?
Yeah.
And I was like, whoa, like he's not gonna kill it. This is back when it was like a 1/5 too. Like it just never died.
Yeah, they might not kill it, but they might backstab it and play their own evil Miscreant.
Yeah. Well, what ended up happening is they backstabbed and then they evil Miscreanted and then they prepped an eviscerate, and I was very sad. I think this Blink Fox is making Orange a bit sad.
Are you ever excited about playing a Blink Fox? Like, obviously you get some incredible outcomes sometimes, right? Where you get an insane card, but like before the fact, are you ever like, yeah, this is a sick Blink Fox, and just jam it into play? Because I always feel like it's just about good enough to be in the deck, and the turns where I end up playing it, like, yeah, all right, fine, 3-3, go.
I got 2 words for you.
Okay. I am always excited about that. That is fair. That does not get old.
Ooh.
What is it with Orange and 2/6 taunts?
I don't know, but they're quite annoying. Just a lot of stuff that Seiko has to do to make headway on this.
Yep. And no Miscreant on Seiko's side versus 2, or at least 1 and a stepped 1 on Orange's side.
Time to build your own Miscreant.
Yeah. It's just a tough deficit to overcome in the Rogue Mirror.
I feel like Seiko's in a pretty good spot here. Evil Cable Rat with 3 extra mana next turn. It's a lot of stuff you get to do.
It is.
So that's Orange's question now. How do I most take advantage of the fact that my opponent has not actively taken advantage of the Spear of the Shark? How can I make sure that I mitigate that?
I feel like there's an argument to just not put anything super worthwhile on board for Seiko to get usage out of any lackeys he generates next turn. Just take a slow turn with like Novice Engineer Dagger and then set up to clean up the turn afterwards.
My instinct is to always go wider onto the board in these kinds of situations.
How would you do that this turn, though?
Well, I don't feel like I can, is the issue.
Okay, yeah. Then we agree.
You know, we have an Edwin Van Cleef in hand if you're on Team Orange right now. I'm very not interested in using cheap cards and then keeping an Edwin Van Cleef in the hand for the rest of the game. I'm very interested in using expensive cards that I don't care if my opponent kills, and then figuring out a way to take advantage later.
Yeah, it's kind of why I like Novice Dagger that turn. You fish a little bit deeper to look for, you know, backstabs and other, you know, Shadow Step #2 activators further for that Edwin. And then because you have Rush Lackey, Damage Lackey in hand, you're kind of set up to react from hand to whatever Seiko generates with his Spirit of the Shark turn.
Nothing.
Orange just tempos out, though.
Yeah.
We talked about it previously.
I think one of the priorities is just making sure that he can threaten Spirit of the Shark directly. I don't want to threaten it from hand. I want to threaten it on board to try to disrupt what my opponent's going to do.
I don't think so. I guess this is where we philosophically disagree then, because I don't think playing, you know, decent-sized chunky minions into your opponent's Spirit of the Shark turn disrupts what they want to do. I think it makes them very happy. I think playing minions and tempoing against stuff like that is what they want to do with a Spirit of the Shark turn.
Yeah, I agree. I don't think it's ideal to have to eviscerate here instead of forego more combos.
You are definitely right there. The outcome from the lackeys being the slow ones, in effect, like no Rush Lackey, no Damage Lackey, meant that Seiko did have to have an awkward turn to protect his Shark.
Yeah,
so Orange's
Miscreant. Shut off.
Orange's line of play, yeah, Orange's line of play pretty much worked out.
Sometimes the simple stuff is just good.
I wonder.
So he's going SI and they're going to rush it into the Shark.
This
Yeah,
guy's
sure.
toast.
It's really the only thing I saw. It's like, I want to kill everything in play so that, once again, my opponent can't just High Spirit Togwaddle. That's a nightmare.
Yeah, so you had a more aggressive board play there where you did the same thing but with the Edwin instead of the SI7 by shooting 2 damage into the Shark and then rushing into the Shark, but that leaves lackeys in play, which goes to your point that you are allowing Tempo Togwaggle at that point. Which is just a bad time.
Well, I'm starting to get interested in the amount of Cold Bloods that are available. Backstab is, you know, one of those cards I feel like you're almost always going to take when given the option in this matchup. I start to look at fancy plays with the Blade Flurry and an Assassin's Blade. And with Ziliak's Cold Blood in hand, I think Seiko's comfortable using lots of life total to try to generate an advantage.
Yep. Seiko, though, for his part, has left lackeys on the board going into his opponent's turn 6. Worth noting as well that he's pushing himself down to that exact kind of life range that we saw previously, just dropping below 20, Leroy in hand for Orange. This time, though, Seiko sitting on both the Ziliax and the Life Drinker to be able to counteract that.
Yeah, I'm very interested in this turn as
So
well, because I think
options.
Orange has to pick the direction somewhere pretty soon, where with the Shadow Step and Leroy, you have a game plan in mind. But you also have Novice Engineer with Shadow Step and Edwin Van Cleef.
Yep.
There's a lot to do this turn, and he's got to figure out how all these pieces interact in the right way. You know, I'm even thinking something simple could be very good this turn. Seiko's been taking quite slow turns so far, and he's started to rack up, you know, quite a bit of random card generation.
Choose soon.
The last turn was quite weak, and it wasn't really checked that well.
I feel like I would have liked to have seen actions by now for this point from Orange. I think this is a turn where a lot of things can change around. Well, it looks like he's going for a pretty solid line, no card draw, no random outcomes, just going for the Edwin. Okay.
Yeah, I felt the longer he took on that turn to take an action, the more he was settling on Edwin. And that Edwin is mighty good, because a 2-mana Cold Blood is very different than the 1-mana Cold Blood, which would have allowed a Ziliax to clear it this turn.
Oof. Yeah, you're very right.
And that 8/8 is massive. Seiko does not have a way to cleanly handle this.
So many options.
And I feel like the longer this turn takes, the happier Orange is. It's like every second that passes, you're like, wait a minute, they don't have sap.
I wonder.
Your opponent just waits to the very last moment of the rope, saps your Edwin. You cry about him being a slow roller for a while.
You try not to,
Too soon.
but you do.
I wonder.
It's me, all right. Wow.
Yeah, that is great news if you're Team Orange. That's bad news if you're Team Seiko.
Hinge Clan Burglar, best draw this turn. That's not bad either.
Well, so here's the thing. Orange can't deliver a killing blow. That's going to mean Seiko does get to answer back with this Ziliax in some form. So these next couple of draws for Orange, I think, are paramount to him winning this game.
Yeah.
I hope you like my
But that sap does really help increase his consistency against Ziliax coming down. Be able to deal with it efficiently as long as he can then push through for lethal afterwards. And as we saw in the previous game, Orange is very good at calculating around all those possibilities. Something that he will not have accounted for, though, is Ziliax plus Cold Blood if it's needed to come down in a desperate situation.
I'm quite interested in using the dagger at this point.
To push?
Yeah, though the Kobold Lackey opens up the kill on the Life Drinker.
Okay.
Too
That
soon.
keeps my 3/3 uncontested as well. I think weirdly enough, there is some merit to sapping the Life Drinker as well. Like if your opponent's going to spend 4 more mana and not kill your Edwin Van Cleef, you are ecstatic about that situation.
Yeah. I think you always win this game if Ziliax isn't involved in the scenario, right? So I think making sure you have a clean answer for just weird Ziliax situations that isn't spending 4 on Vendetta, because that's too expensive to pair with your Leroy right now. I think that makes more sense. Little does Orange know, as we mentioned, there is a Cold Blood.
And there's a Snip Snap in play.
Yep.
So this sap is going to be prime real estate in a second.
But the initial burst of healing can be potentially monstrous here. Bad news.
Yeah.
Orange gets it. And now Orange is back to needing draws. Considering value trading on the Life Drinker here.
Too soon.
I want to use the Witchy Lackey so bad.
Yep.
Thing in play.
Oh!
That's not supposed to happen. That's the worst outcome possible.
Yeah. That's supposed to work the other way around. You're supposed to pay 5 for that and then put your Witchy Lackey on it. That's how that works.
That is very ironic.
It's just unfortunate. Yep.
Yeah.
The eyes widen for Seiko as he gets the bad news.
Apt response.
That not only means that he doesn't get more immediate healing from his Ziliax, it kills his Ziliax because it was magnetized to the existing body of the Snip Snap.
Unity, precision, perfection.
But Orange is just so much further away from the lethal setup than he thought he was because of that Cold Blood.
Too soon.
Ziliax, no attacks, I think, is quite appropriate here as well.
But then where does the damage go from the Lackey and the Dagger? Orange says to minions.
Yep. Take the minions, preserve the Divine Shield, and that makes it really tough for Seiko to kill.
It's hard to criticize someone who just got the absolute not slow outcome from their role, but is leaving that 3 damage on board going to end up punishing Seiko?
I wonder.
I mean, look at the outcome.
I guess 2 damage. It was 3 versus 1, to be fair.
Just look at the outcome. If the outcome is like anything stable,
else. I totally agree. Yeah.
like even if it's like a 3-5, that's like totally good.
Yeah. Yep. Got to ask the questions.
Pit your wits and will against luck, and sometimes the cards decide the rest.
Yeah. Oh, 3 more from the Ziliax.
This guy's toast.
Orange is 2 damage away from closing.
1 damage away, right?
The dagger pushes it to 1 damage away, yeah.
Yep. Well, do you have a better plan?
I remember someone told me that if you spend 4 mana on a Vendetta, you never win. I'm definitely going to Vendetta here.
Is Orange going to prove me wrong twice in 1 weekend?
I think you hold the backstab. I think you ship the rest of the damage face. The witchy lackey stuff, I don't think you're quite as worried about. The lone Ziliax is gone, which means there's no natural taunt left in the deck. I don't think his hand offers him the freedom to play around taunts as he did in the previous game because he does not have damage from hand. So preserving the Leroy, I think, has
He still has damage from hand to draw in his deck, though.
Correct, but
so jamming the Leroy and the dagger to face now does allow him SI7 off the top, Life Drinker off the top to beat taunts.
Too soon.
He also has, if he just goes Leroy to face, dagger to face, it has to be a 7 health taunt for him to not be able to get through the dagger swing to face if he then has backstab Vendetta on the existing taunt minion.
The other thing I'm thinking about, though, is that given that Seiko just used his life total, holding on to this Leroy, I don't think Seiko is ever interpreting it as Shadow Step. I think given the Vendetta, he's clearly not interpreting it as Sea Giant or Waggle Pick. And you keep going down through the list, and it starts to run out of stuff it could be. It lands pretty much exactly on Leroy.
Yep.
I think Seiko can make that deduction. However, I think in this instance, I would give my opponent at least the opportunity to not think otherwise, but Vaporize changes that. Oh, boy.
Random nonsense is kind of another tick in the get the Leroy damage to face now box.
Yeah, but I didn't think about Vaporize from Henge Clan Burglar. I didn't think about Ice Barrier.
Ice Barrier, yeah, exactly.
Oh, no.
If you're Orange, you have to go for it in this position. Because if there was no outer there against Leroy, any secret would have been taken to bluff, right? Any secret.
I would have, if there's no out to Leroy, absolutely I would take any secret to bluff. Like in Orange's perspective, this could easily be Mirror Entity, Ice Barrier, Counterspell. I mean, it could literally be any of the mage secrets. And so I think when you get to see it's not Mirror Entity and you get to see it's not Counterspell, that's when your head starts to, you know, tick together some stuff here.
Yep.
Ugh.
Yeah, that's about right.
Because the other thing, too, is Orange also can check for Ice Barrier first.
Yes.
And again, as these things start getting ticked away, it starts to become Splitting Image and Vaporize. And that's it. It's not Counterspell. It's not Spellbender. It's not Mirror Entity. It's not Ice Barrier. Splitting Image, Vaporize, and there's one more I'm missing, I feel like. There's 6 secrets, right?
Spellbender? No, he's checked Spellbender already with backstab. Yeah. Oh, boy! I think he has to. I think it's the right decision. I don't think that's a mistake. I think if there was any potential mistake, it's not getting that Leroy damage through on the previous turn.
Oh, you look so right, and I think you are. It's not even like a results thing. I just feel like you weren't holding a surprise away from Seiko. Like, by deduction, he can quite easily reduce that to Leroy.
Right.
I think you would have used actually every other card in the deck by now on that turn.
I wonder.
6 mana 5/5 is just going to be enough. I don't know where Orange is getting this 6 damage from, but it's got to come soon.
I'm not seeing it. I think it has to be another wacky out. Something that's not in his deck. Some way to generate something. Yep, that's the guy.
Oh my.
That is the guy.
Why do you do this to me, Hearthstone?
Fireball. Nope. 4 damage to a minion.
Crystal Song Portal, can that provide anything? No.
Cancel me 3 Druid minions. Druid of the Claw, 1 mana too expensive, 1 damage off anyway, even with the dagger.
Thinking of the taunts that are there.
Yeah. Holy Water, the opposing Hench Clan Burglar, and then try again next turn? Are you alive if you do that? I mean, you're almost certainly not to that Leroy, but from Orange's perspective,
I wonder.
I mean, Seiko has 22 damage loaded up if everything survives. 23, excuse me.
okay. Floop, why aren't you a Leroy?
It'll only be 3 attack.
I know. It also would never be a Leroy because there'd be a Hench Clan Burglar played in the middle, even if it worked like that, which it doesn't.
Golly. What a Hench Clan Burglar. It stole this game.
Yeah, but it can do that. That is a heartbreaker.
With Leroy now, we'll do trick. Game 3. And that's a spot where Orange absolutely could have changed that outcome on the previous turn of that.
With it specifically being vaporized, yes, but I don't even think you need to get that results-oriented about it. I think, you know...
That's what I'm saying, is again, the deduction process from hand reading. Seiko's seen that card in hand for a long time.
Right.
What else could it be? Like, you're not tricking him with it.
Right.
I get that, like, Shadow Step can play around, like, some of the Holy Light stuff that's in there, yada, 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 but...
Yeah. And again, you hold Backstab Vendetta in your hand, so if a taunt comes from a Faceless Lackey or an Evolve or any other random means, it has to have 7 health to prevent you getting through that dagger interface.
Yeah.
Even if you do get completely locked out, you have a combo activator in hand for SI7 Agent, which you can draw off the top, and you have Life Drinker, which you can draw off the top as well. Or you have an activator for any Lackey generators, like such as Evil Miscreant, which can then get you Kobold Lackey to deal the damage to I feel like you just increase your outs by so much by doing it that way.
There's also Snipe, there's also Freezing Trap, there's also, you know, et cetera, et cetera. All the things that interact with minions in that particular way.
Yep.
None of the Paladin ones work, but, I mean, you get the point. There's multiple random outcomes to play around in that situation. And, again, I think he's holding it for the value specifically of, A, Shadow Step, and then, B, the lack of securing that information on Seiko's side. I just don't think the information ever has merit, and that tells me I want to play the Leroy.
So that's a good point, because if you want to get into random healing being generated instead, then you have the 1 outer, I believe, of a Shadow Step from your deck, which then improves your damage by holding the Leroy. But I think I've already listed many more outs that you improve by doing it the other way, which to me puts the weight of balance in terms of playing the Leroy, but extremely difficult turn. We just both clearly find it very interesting, which is why we're both talking about it. Orange, on the other hand, needs to have moved on from that moment, right or wrong. I'm not committing either way. He needs to be playing in this game of Hearthstone right now, and if you hear that little giggle from my commentary partner, it's because Seiko has Novice Engineer Shadow Step available to him yet again, which according to Admirable is Seiko's favorite play. But Seiko has no idea what he's talking about.
I didn't say favorite. I just said he does it more than everyone I've ever seen.
Okay, sure.
I think in this game it has less merit for a number of reasons. Number 1, coin. Number 2, when is he going to dagger again with this hand? That is a head crack.
Oh, okay, of course, yeah. So what on earth is that thing? Headcrack always gets there, dude.
How often are you just moving in on this Edwin right here?
Pretty often. A large majority of the time.
Seiko has 1 copy of Sap. Has Vendettas and stuff, of course, but it has to generate random cards first. Backstab, Edwin, Shadow Step, Edwin. Represents 8/8.
Yep, one of the things I always look at when I'm playing an Edwin Van Cleef is these cards that I'm using to combo my Edwin, how efficient is the job that they're doing outside of buffing the Edwin? And I think playing a Backstab here is as efficient as it gets. Shadow Stepping your Edwin is one of the most efficient uses of Shadow Step. Just makes sense. See, this baffles. This just seems like such a weird order to do it. Obviously, it's functionally exactly the same.
Well, you want to tell Seiko right away, what's happening. instead of
Okay.
Just
Okay, sure.
you know, Orange is a longtime card player. He's not the play it last kind of person. He's the fireball from hand first, and then if you don't want to concede, let him do his
Sure.
fancy stuff. But he's just going to kill you anyway.
All right.
I respect that.
I am never considering my opponent's feelings during a competitive game of Hearthstone. That is valuable brain space that I can dedicate towards making him feel bad.
And that's why we all like Orange more than you.
All right, yeah, good point. Good point, well made.
Whew!
Backstab Leroy the Edwin Bankleaf.
I don't blame him. It's one of the cleanest answers he's getting to at this game.
Yep. And here's the other indicator as to why I thought that was a good Edwin. Check number 1, how efficient are the cards I'm using to combo? Very efficient in that place. Check number 2, what happens if it gets beaten? Do I have follow-up? Yep, Orange has about as much good quality follow-up as he could need. Henchclan Burglar and Ziliax over the coming turns, and if he can then find a lackey over the turns leading up to turn 7, turn 8, he's going to be able to go Togwaggle after that as well. It was just a really solid Edwin turn.
I think the debate here is between the mana efficiency of Ziliax and no attack, and the slightly larger body plus the information on Henchclan Burglar. Force of Nature, I imagine, is a pretty darn good card in this matchup. It's a lot of stuff on one card.
It is. The individual bodies all die to Backstab, SI7 Agent, and Kobold Lackey, though.
Hey, I'm doing that with a Battle Cry.
Yeah.
Because they're going to be playing Backstab SI7 Agent like next turn. I'm quite surprised by the
I'm
arcade
not.
shot.
I'm not. That's where I was leaning.
I'm plumb surprised.
That was my instinct.
Yeah! Dagger attacks. Big fan.
That one I definitely agree with. I think that's a fairly simple one as far as they go. Orange has a damage lead. He has damage in play. He has Waggle Pick in hand, and he just picked a damage card. I think that pretty safely signifies push the damage.
So many options.
I feel like we're just playing the same game like 3 times up until this point, where Seiko just gets low. He's on the defensive. He has some form of healing in hand, but is it enough to drag him out of it? I think it's been roughly the same story every time.
So many options.
I feel like it's just the Waggle Pick here again, too. Just makes sense.
Yep. Ouch. Not the lackeys that he's looking for.
I really wish I had a Force of Nature right now.
Yeah, I'd rather play Force of Nature than Ziliax this turn. I'd rather play Force of Nature than just tempo out my Togwaggle this turn.
So many options.
Yeah, I don't know.
I wonder.
My instinct is telling me Ziliax because I'm staring down a Waggle Pick.
Yeah.
Or my own Waggle Pick.
Let's choose soon.
Yeah, I'm not really feeling the Waggle Pick personally. It does feel like a Ziliax turn to me. It's a little awkward. It's a little underwhelming. Ooh, okay.
It's not the biggest thing.
Tempo 5-5. It is certainly the biggest thing.
He has gotten some word that Seiko is, missing tempo plays. Like, he's already used a backstab. He used a Leroy to clear the Edwin. And last turn, I mentioned it. If there was like backstab SI or cheap thing SI, that probably would have happened last turn to fight for board.
Sure.
That didn't happen. And so I think Orange is drawing up an image of what Seiko's hand looks like, and he's coming up with something that's about what it is. Clunky things.
I hope you like my invention.
That feels like a big sigh of relief. But at the same time, you gotta take 5. And so I don't like that. Brace for impact.
Choose suit. So many options.
This guy's toast.
ESI is coming back. Seiko just minimizing every piece of damage he can in this position. Second waggle pick, dead draw.
Nelly. Well, I'm not convinced this is a dead draw. I think you have a clear game plan now. Start smashing face. I don't know if that works, but we have 4 turns of 4 attack swings. What else are we going to use these on? You get to play Ziliax with them as well.
And I'm just calling out to the fact that it's a big difference between the two decks, where Orange has the 2 waggle picks, Seiko has the 1. We set this up at the beginning. Sometimes when you go down to 1 waggle pick, you feel like the second one can just end up being a dead draw. And I think this is a scenario where Orange would have rather found other cards, minions to play instead of that second waggle pick in this situation.
I'm not convinced of that. I think the second waggle pick's good. Now, I think Seiko's hand's very good against the second waggle pick, but I don't think Orange has a way to know that.
I'm unclear on what hand equip waggle pick, hit face, equip waggle pick, hit face over the next 3 turns beats.
Because I get to play, next turn I get to play Ziliax and attack, and then bounce it to my hand, and if I want to, play another Ziliax.
Okay.
We have a lot of defensive measure with this hand.
Okay, I can see that.
So
You know, I'm wondering if
many
that was actually one of the
options.
thoughts for Orange in playing the Togwaggle over the Ziliax.
Over the Ziliax, because Ziliax is just such a good way to race in the
Yeah.
scenario he was in. You might be right. All right, yeah, I was overlooking the extra turns of the Ziliax buys, especially if you're able to play 2 of them.
If that life drinker doesn't come back to hand, that is, in my opinion, that was one of the keys for Seiko.
It's coming back.
Okay, good. Because I was like, this turn I was all about like Shark Life Drinker, Shadow Step the Life Drinker. Like, yeah, let's tell him what I have. I don't care. Take 6, idiot. Oh! Wow! That draw was massive.
All right, my question here is, what is Orange doing with the rest of his mana this turn?
Set that waggle pick.
If that's the case, didn't he want to use the first charge of the second waggle pick that turn instead of the second charge of the first waggle pick?
Good question.
That's more damage over 2 turns, is it not?
It is. I think that right now, this, you know, when your opponent just shadow steps their life drinker in that spot, I think you're anticipating Spear of the Shark, which tells me that you're anticipating needing more than 1 turn after this.
Okay.
Choose suit.
So next turn you swing again for 4, they're down to 3. And by having the second charge available, you are 1 short of beating Spirit of the Shark Life Drinker. Okay.
I mean, Seiko knows that he has to play Life Drinker this turn. No questions asked.
Yep, lethal is face up for Orange. Also, second charge of that waggle pick plays into that Ziliax condition, that race condition that you were talking about previous turn as well, though. Because now he can't bounce Ziliax and get double Ziliax, which means he's staring down lethal on the other side.
So my head is very interested in taking care of. Wait a minute. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. Yeah, he's 1 off. Okay. Why is this happening first? Yeah.
So he spends 2 on the Life Drinker, 4 more on the Life Drinker. He has to spend 2 on the Dagger. In the meantime, he can only just fit in the Arcane Shot. Okay.
Eviscerate will win.
Choose suit.
Does it?
Eviscerate wins.
He'll go down to 6. Eviscerate costs 2. 2 more 2. Yeah, no, you're right. Yep.
Unity, precision, perfection.
Throws away the arcane shot just to take damage off the board and try and buy some time, which I think is wise in the situation. Hoping Orange got everything through there. Looks comfortable. Usually a second or two ahead of us on the feed. Yep. Oh boy.
It's just a lot of mana that's being occupied for Seiko.
It is.
I mean, I don't know what the play is here. Like, how do you win the game via Togwaggle versus how do you win the game via Hench Clan Burglar, via what's the lackeys that win you the game? Like,
you never win the game through Togwaggle, right? It costs you. You actually can't activate a Togwaggle this turn, right?
oh yeah, he doesn't have a lackey in play. Excuse me.
You're already tapped out by the time you get lackeys in your hand.
Might offer some extra health.
Strike. Bite. Yeah, Bite seems like the most round pick in that spot.
Radiance!
Oh boy.
You said it wasn't gonna be a good card! I saw you haters who were talking about Radiance being unplayable. That is like the most important card he could have got right now. Like literally.
It's still a pretty bad card.
It's good. It might win him the game.
Uh-huh. Looks like Orange has to sprint.
For what? That's crazy.
So if he does the Life Drinker stuff this turn instead of sprinting, he stabilizes life total by 6 more.
Options.
Which gives him more security against immediate counter-lethals, which are incredibly scary when you're looking at Spirit of the Shark on the opposing side of the board. Which he may also then end up sapping. Oh boy. Yep. Shark gonna get sapped. Orange holding onto his Life Drinker, keeping Shadow Step alive, as well as Leroy Jenkins draws from his side, but there is a Bite that is still unused from Seiko, which is representing 4 armor game.
Oh my gosh. I'm like shocked that Seiko's in this game. Like it felt like everything was gonna go away and just Hench Clan Burglar. The fact that it only fetches spells instead of just cards. Like if it counted class minions, like you think about how much wider the pool would be.
Right. I think this is going to be the last turn that Orange is going to realistically be able to defend against lethal outs, though. How big this board state will get.
He's just got to draw Leroy, right? Like that's the draw.
If the Bite comes down, then Leroy is the draw, yeah. And I'm pretty sure the Bite is coming down in every single world. 6 from Leroy, 3 from the Drinker, 1 from the Dagger. Taunt minion can lock him out. Oh, I saw a 2-6, thought it was another 2-6.
That can cast Bite again. It casts
Oh
Bite
my
again.
goodness.
Leroy is no longer an out.
Was it guaranteed? Was that the only spell he played that turn? I think it was.
Spirit of the Shark, Bite, and then Things.
Yeah. What? What is Hearthstone? Explain to me on an existential level, what is Hearthstone?
So Orange is he dead if he doesn't Blizzard? I'm curious if, so if you life drinker there, you would take in 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 from board, 8, 9 from the head crack. 1 of the damage has to trade in. Nope, I take that back. He can Vendetta his own minion. 11, 12, 13, 14. So he would have been dead if he didn't Blizzard on that turn. The way I was looking at it was, do you literally have to just Dimensional Ripper a Leroy Jenkins next turn and hope that you live through the damage?
Okay. I think Seiko is 1 off this turn, by the way. 4 to face from the Kobold Lackey, 1 to face with the dagger, and then head crack would get cast twice by the Archmage Vargoth for a total of 9.
Sounds to me like you're casting 2 wands then.
There it is.
Wow.
Life Drinker off the top for the remaining 6. Orange has it snatched away from him in so many nail-biting scenarios. Game after game, every single time, he was the one playing aggressor. He was the one suiting up waggle picks, swinging to face. Game number 1, Seiko had no answer. Game number 2, maybe questions about his sequencing that then got beaten by, an absolutely brutal random out. Let's not, pretend that isn't the case. Could he have done better to beat that kind of thing? Third game, all bets were off. That one just went crazy.
Yeah, I mean, yeah. Radiance.
Bite. Archmage Vargoth Bite.
That's a lot of healing.
None of those cards are in his deck. None of them.
Nope. But Henge Clan Burglar is.
Yep.
Henge Clan Burglar does some pretty crazy stuff. Radiance. It just got added to the patch. Oh, you know what? I bet Frodo and TJ forgot about that patch note. Sounds like Psycho's ready for an interview. Psycho, can you hear us?
Yeah. Hey, guys.
Hey, indeed. Wow, those are some pretty solid outcomes of Henge Clan Burglars. Which one do you think was more important in the series? Do you think it was Game 2, finding an out against the Leroy, or do you think it was Game 3?
Game 3 was pretty exhausting. I think it was Game 3.
In game number 2,
Right.
Did you assume that he had Leroy in hand at the end stages there?
Oh, yeah. Yeah, I was pretty sure it was Leroy.
Is he
kept
supposed
so
to
many
play it?
cards. It had to be, yeah. Oh, I can't hear you guys anymore.
Can you hear us now?
Oh, yeah.
Do you think he's supposed to play that Leroy? That was the debate that Sottle had introduced to me.
Yeah, I think it's fine to play it.
On the so not like when he used the Leroy and obviously he hit Vaporize, like I 100% agree he's supposed to play it there. I was talking about the previous turn about like whether he's supposed to bank the Leroy damage first and spend the mana, but I don't think you could really like address that without seeing the state of his hand or whatever. So instead, let's talk about some very good news for you, which is of course you are now back in the hunt for finishing top of the division. How much would that mean to you just in terms of the advantage it would give you in the later stage, but also, just to be first place in the division in the European region?
Yeah, it would actually mean a lot to me, especially because I threw against Hunter Ace last week. So that was pretty disappointing. So I hope it's enough.
That's about all I got.
All right. Well, Psycho, is there anything else you'd like to say before we head off? Because you're coming to playoffs next week. But for now, you're done with the regular season with a fantastic record.
No, nothing.
Well, all right. Well, I'll let you go then. And thank you very much for your time. And looking forward to seeing you play next week.
Yeah, see you guys.
He said that last game was exhausting. I think it showed.
Yeah. A little delay on the Skype stuff there, too.
Yeah.
It's overseas stuff. That's my fault. But overall, I do agree with him that the game is quite exhausting in that spot. I would take a look at the standings and see how things are shaping up. There's just so much going on in the random situations that it changes everything you have to think about. Like, none of the normal stuff you think about comes into play. It's about solving the puzzle pieces at that point. And when the puzzle pieces mean a lot and they're complicated, that equals an exhausting puzzle.
Yeah, but while we have the standing sat here in front of you just to try and crystallize the situation, the three-way tie scenario that we've been alluding to throughout the broadcast so far, that cannot now occur, so you will not need to hear me bore you with the exact ins and outs of tiebreaker 2s, +2s, and +1s, and various other games that come into play to make that all-round out magical 59-59 draw between two players. That's not going to happen. Impossibility now. It's a straight-up race for first place between Hunter Ace and Seiko.